All right, welcome to the very first episode of Properly Invested. I just thought I'd start this episode off and I guess the series or this podcast as a whole, telling a little bit about myself, talking about where I came from, what we're trying to accomplish on this podcast, and give you a little background of what it's going to be about. So, first of all, my name's Ian Ratliff. I'm a local investor and real estate agent in the Nashville market. Born and raised in Tennessee, right here in Nashville. The only other place I've lived is San Francisco. Done a good bit of traveling all around the world, about 15 countries so far, but really spent a lot of time over the past few years here in Nashville and investing here. So with this podcast, I think as a goal, I don't want it to just be about real estate. I don't want it to just be about, investing. I'd like to bring on different people from different industries and discuss things with them about what they're doing, whether that be good for the local community or a business they're starting. So I'm looking forward to having some people on in the future regarding that and having some conversations with them. So a little bit about me. Growing up in Nashville, grew up skateboarding and going to school here. Nothing really special. Grew up in pretty much a single family household. My dad got cancer when I was real little, passed away about the time I was 13. Started working about that time, just part-time here and there, bagging groceries, worked at like a climbing gym for a little while, have done a little bit about everything. But more recently, leading up to this, I moved back from San Francisco in 2015, moved out there right after college and was really just kind of burnt out on work, didn't know what I wanted to do, but liked the city. So moved out there, skated for a while, just kind of hung out and then got a little burnt out and just realized, I always wanted to own my own business, always wanted to invest, and that likely wasn't going to happen there. So when I moved back, I was working at a print shop, got a job there with a close buddy of mine who was like, hey, I got a job for you. It's $10 an hour. And long story short, I worked there for about 3 or 4 months. We were working nights about 3 p.m. till about 1 a.m., maybe 2 a.m. some nights, sometimes a little later, but usually not past that. So we had a lot of late nights and, just hanging out, drinking beers at the house while we were all kind of figuring out our lives and what we were going to do. A few months later, my godfather actually reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to interview with a company. They had a sales position open, and I'd done quite a bit of sales in the past. I've done door-to-door sales, internet sales, which was probably the worst job I ever had, and just a little bit about everything at this point. And so with that, I went and interviewed with the company, met the guy who was the manager at the time, told him, what I was looking for, what I was looking to do. And it's funny, one of the questions he asked me during the interview before I got hired was, where do you see yourself here in the next couple of years? What are your goals over time? And I told him I want to own my own business in 2 years. And he was a little taken aback, but kind of like sat up in his chair. And it was really funny because, he's like, oh, really? Normally people don't say that in an interview. And I said, yeah, that's ultimately my goal. I know 2 years is a stretch, being that I don't have a lot of money right now and I'm getting my first real corporate sales job. But, I thought it was something that I always wanted to achieve, and just kind of started there and told him what I wanted to make per year, which was told him $40,000 was the minimum I wanted to make, and I wouldn't even leave the print shop for anything less than that, even though I was only making $10 an hour. I at least enjoyed that job, and I didn't want to take a job that I might not like for less than $40,000 a year, which in the grander scheme of things isn't even a lot of money every year, but for me at the time was a ton of money. So anyway, about a week later, he reaches back out to me. We sit down, grab a beer. He makes me an offer. It was $41,000 a year plus commission. So, he bumped it up an extra grand for me, which I really owe it to my godfather and to that guy for giving me that opportunity, because it really helped put me in the position to be able to save and look at starting my own business and, investing in the long term. So with that, I kind of got that job, got in the swing of things, was working 40, 50 hours a week in IT infrastructure sales, and realized that, all right, cool, like I can probably buy a house here in the next couple of years now. If I save my money, I knew there were some first-time homebuyer programs out there that would be really great for me in my position, either to get assistance with down payment, or just put a minimum down and just get into a house, either rent out a couple rooms or potentially flip it. And And I was pretty dead set from the get-go on investing in real estate and always wanted to from a young age. I read a book when I was about 13, 14 years old called How to Be a Millionaire by 30. Probably not going to achieve that goal, but this guy wrote a book about how he was investing in real estate in New York in the early 2000s, doing cash out refis, renting out rooms, living in the shittiest room in the house, and then slowly moving up the chain. And by the time he was 30 years old, he had acquired about a net worth of $1 million, which is pretty impressive to do in just a few years' time. So with that, that always inspired me, and so I started working toward that goal of having a house. And I made it about a year and a half into the job. Had been passed up for a promotion one time, which I wasn't upset about at the time because I was still pretty green, and I knew that they were probably going to hire someone else from the industry who'd been there a while and really had a good grasp on the industry and the product that we were selling and large scale projects. And we were handling like larger companies like Nissan, Bridgestone Manufacturing, the corrections corporations, and managing them from like a enterprise level nationally and internationally. So that was a really great experience. But through that year and a half, I'd saved a good bit of money, had just started to get pre-approved, and went to the bank, talked to them about it, and they were like, "You have no credit." And so I didn't even know I needed credit at the time. I was 24, maybe going on 25, and had told myself, I just want to buy a house. And I had about 15 grand in savings. Went to the bank, and they're like, "You don't have any credit. We can't loan you any money." So they told me, go get a credit card, go, take out a small car loan if you'd like to. That'll establish 2 lines of credit. That's really what we need to see on paper for you to qualify for the program. Your income looks good. You don't have crazy debt. So with that, try and go do that. Come back to us in 6 to 8 months, and then we'll probably be able to qualify you. And I think it was about 6 months. I got a Discover card, just a real easy unsecured line of credit. I think it was maybe $1,000. And then the credit union I was getting approved through gave me up to a $5,000 loan. It was 10% interest on whatever car if I wanted to go buy a used car or something else. And so they had some decent rates for auto loans for someone who doesn't have any credit. And so that's what I did. I went and bought a used 2006 Cadillac CTS. It was the first car I've ever had without air conditioning. It had heated seats and heated steering wheel and stuff, so that was pretty freaking cool to have that. Drove that around for a couple years, and during that time, built my credit during that first 6 months and had made on-time payments. Never ran up the credit card bill, just put like gas on it here or there, and then was able to qualify for the home. So during that second year in the job, I was going on my going into my third year, there was an opportunity for that position again. And so with that, I was pretty excited because I was like, okay, cool. I've got another year under my belt. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. I'm good in front of customers. I've built some good relationships with them. And I was really serious about moving up kind of the corporate chain and moving into that outside sales role. And, one, making more money, but 2, doing something I really enjoyed a little more than what I was doing, sitting at a desk, making calls every day, placing orders, managing the project from a back-end standpoint. I really wanted to be on the front side in front of people and have conversations with them and figure out their problems and, create a solution and then take that back and have someone on my back end who, like me, was covering the outside sales rep to basically have someone that's a teammate and, just crush it. But anyway, long story short, again, I got passed up for the position, and that was kind of when my mind changed and what my trajectory and goals were, I suppose, because there really wasn't any additional upward mobility that I could see within the next 12 to 24 months without moving cities. And I didn't want to move again. I wanted to sit here in Nashville, and I have a good network here, a lot of family and friends, and my friends are pretty much my family at this point. Didn't grow up with a lot of family locally. They're kind of spread around the country, and we'd see them Christmas or maybe a birthday or something here or there, but just really didn't want to move, so just decided it was time to kind of start moving towards something else. And at the time, I was still looking for a house, hadn't found anything, had found a realtor through my mom and a family friend who they recommended him. He was a great dude, definitely helped me out a lot, gave me a lot of great advice. He'd been in the business for about think 12, 13 years. So really solid guy. And kind of got me started thinking about, all right, well, how do I invest in real estate? And my goal is what I said to myself is, well, I need this corporate job to be able to qualify for the home. And I need to at least keep it till I got the home, and probably, until I put some money into it, keep the job and stay there and really make money, and put it aside, and then maybe rent out a couple rooms after the house is renovated. And now I can maybe live for free and go do something else on the side. And so I was doing Uber and Lyft as well at this time, just part-time, here or there, like maybe 10 hours a week at a time. Sometimes I would really hoof it and try and do 20 hours a week and, make an extra $1,000 a month or something like that to put toward the house fund, or beer money even. And then kind of saved that, got to a point, it was probably, let me think here, December 2017, I just decided to take the real estate licensing courses online. And I didn't even have really an intention of being a realtor. I just thought that it might be good education. I think it was like $500 for all 90 hours of the licensing courses. And I was like, well, it might be cool to go into that industry eventually, but ultimately it'll be nice to just have that educational basis as I go through this process of buying a home. I'll understand things better. I'll understand, what they're talking about when they're talking about closing costs, or, the local regulations, or writing offers, and kind of the process as a whole. So I did that, and I just did it at my leisure over almost 6 months. Just kind of sat down at the computer, would even go to the bar some nights and pull the computer up, sit there, chat with people, take a couple courses, and then go home. And I did that up until I bought that first house, which I believe was April of 2018. I think it was early April 2018. I put it under contract in March. And it was a pretty high risk scenario where I bought a house. It didn't have any central heat and air. It had old baseboard heat. You can look on my Instagram at the real estate agent if you want to. There should be some photos on there of that house when I first bought it. It was just a little brick ranch, not in a great neighborhood, on the very edge of East Nashville, which was traditionally just a little bit more of a, I guess, sketchy area, or like not highly desired neighborhood as a whole. So anyway, that was my first house. I bought it for $145,000, and just moved into it about 3 months down the road. But during that period, I actually quit my corporate job. So one day my head just kind of exploded at work. My boss at the time was, I remember having a conversation about being 95 or 98% of plan year to date. And I was like, man, we're talking about 2% here, and we're not even halfway through the year. Like, I'm not really seeing any additional resources being given out or advice that's really helping me grow this business. The outside rep at the time wasn't, I don't want to say he wasn't doing his job, because he was doing his job, but I just felt like I could have done a better job, or maybe, we weren't partnering the way we could have been. And like, I really wanted someone to be like gun ho, like every day in, day out, cold calling people, showing up on site, bringing on new customers, bringing on new clients, really meeting with the company as a whole to manage those larger scale projects and bring in some money, because I got paid on commission as well and bonused. And I remember sitting there and just, it was a really nice day in May in Tennessee. If you've ever been in Tennessee in May, it's just gorgeous out usually. You can even wear a hoodie sometimes, or a sweater, and it's kind of like fall during that, right before summer hits and it gets super hot. And I went and sat at my desk and looked outside, and it was beautiful outside, blue skies, like 70 degrees. And I just remember like steaming inside, like that feeling where you get really hot and angry. And I was like, what am I doing here? I'm sitting at this desk every day. I fucking hate this job. There's no room for me to move. There's no upward mobility whatsoever. I'm not really making any insane amount of money. At that point, I'd gotten up to about $48,000 a year plus bonuses, which, like, yeah, for, a mid-20s kid in Tennessee, that was really, really good. I was making more money than the majority of my friends were. But still, just wasn't like fulfilled at all. Just felt like I'd almost rather go back to working at the print shop part-time and figure something else out. During that same period, I was really close to finishing my real estate licensing courses. So, long story short, I'm working on the house and my head exploded, and that was the other thing, is I was working, 8 to 5 every day, and then going to work at that house every night till 1 or 2 a.m. some nights. So I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. I was just working my ass off to get the house ready to move into. I moved in there June 15th, and I'd given my notice May 15th on my corporate job. So that day that it was so nice out, I literally went home on my lunch break at 11:30, wrote up the notice, and turned it in that Friday. I quit that job 2 weeks later and told myself I was going to drive Uber and Lyft and go ahead and get my real estate license. And that's what I did. So I spent about 3 months, 2 to 3 months doing that. August, I'd gotten my real estate license, came on to Blackwell Realty here in Nashville, great family-owned company, still here to this day, 3 years down the road, and had my first couple sales in December of 2018. Haven't done anything since. Down the road, that following year, 2019, I'd sold my very first house for $235,000, and after putting money into it, I'd made about $50,000. So it was a pretty insane experience, because not only did I really get down to the wire and kind of risk everything, I got one pretty high interest loan at the time. It was higher than other rates. I think it was like 5.25%, maybe 5.5%. It was an ARM loan, which means it's an adjustable rate mortgage. So if I didn't sell it within that first 5 years, my rate was likely going to go up or go down. Don't really know, but that was a big concern. And then on top of that, I'd put about $30,000 on credit cards over that year and a half period. And I'd really gotten into kind of the idea of moving credit around and understanding that I could actually get 0% interest credit cards and use those, and then move some of the money once the 0% interest was up to a new credit card, and still get 0% interest on that money for a fee of only 3%. So I was basically like, okay, well, my house rate is 5.25% per year, and I can get 3% interest per year, or 3% on a balance transfer. So why would I not just do that? But the day before I sold the house, I had $63 in my bank account, and the next day I woke up with about $85,000, which was absolutely insane. I'd never seen that amount of money in my bank account before. Never really gotten an opportunity to have that and just be like, holy crap, it worked. So that's what happened, and I've pretty much been rolling ever since. Now I have a business partner who we own a few homes together and are buying pretty consistently now. I have my very first rental and a first owner finance deal going right now, which is really cool. So I'm actually being the bank for someone who can't get a loan at the moment, but trying to put them in a position in the next 12 to 24 months to refi with the bank and be in a position to where they can do that. Because it's, as much as I'd love to collect 8% interest for the next 30 years, it's just not a great scenario for them as an individual, and they're a friend of mine. So I want to make sure that long term they're in a better position. So what's really exciting about all this credit stuff is that next episode I have someone coming on who's in credit repair, lives a pretty luxury lifestyle, flying private jets, staying in hotels for free, driving luxury cars for free or cheap. His name's Kyron Ford, a good friend of mine. So I'm excited for that. But we'll probably talk a little bit more about credit and investing and the house flipping in my scenario in the next episode. But I hope this gives you a little insight into what we plan to do with this podcast, who I am. Hopefully that's a good background, and you understand that, I'm going to try to give you the best advice I can, and, from my experience, what I've done, and I'll try to go into more detail maybe in the future about exactly how that stuff worked, and provide some examples of exactly what those credit cards were. But, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can follow me on Instagram at The Real Estate Agent, and that's just like real estate agent, just change estate to skate. So it's pretty easy to find. You can find me on there. You can find me on Facebook, Ian Ratliff on there, or find us on YouTube at Properly Invested. So here's to the first episode. Looking forward to episode 2 and to many more in the future. And looking forward to talking to you guys soon, and hopefully helping some people out with good advice. All right, have a good one. Talk to you on the episode 2.